Lester Paquin was a great resource. He knew a lot of the old, some of these are out in the woods. Lester and Lucy are the only people who care to walk out there, so, Lester said we should be more than mowing lawns. So we try to preserve the historical stuff. There's certain headstones that are, national figures or a slave or something like those. So we go out of our way to preserve the crucial things, but at the same time, you can't do everything, and we don't have unlimited means. So
Good.
What's the, like when you do a scan, how much area is usually scanned?
So we do it more based on budget. We have found a local guy who he knows we're a small town, and we basically say, scan this whole area is about $5,000 for generally a scan. We say limit it, he could go crazy, he could do everywhere, but we say this is what we've got, this is where we're going to expand to. He does that. The green burials, it wasn't a very big cemetery. I think it was closer to $2,000. So there's other companies that are much more expensive, but this guy, he's worked with us before, and we said when you're available or you're slow, please reach out to us. We have some areas we're interested in. So it's frugal.
Cool.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
When we were talking about the arches, I know that Monty Tech did a lot of the nice new signs for you. Aren't they working on
Monty
some
Tech
of-
restored the arches, and the gates are historical, and they were rebuilt a while ago, but they were never remounted. So now the problem is we had Monty Tech rebuild the arches, but these gates are old and iron and they're heavy, and if we mount them to these arches that Monty Tech and we spent a few $1,000s on, it's gonna kill them. So we're currently working on just getting a temporary 4x4 kind of to bear the weight of the gate. So, and then once that comes on, Monty Tech will come back and put the historical copper on. So we're able to utilize a lot. Lester knows a lot. We do a lot. Monty Tech they work with us and say, well, if you went original copper, it would blow your budget, but we can make this product and it's historical to the time period. So we're not experts in all this, but between using all the resources available to us, we're able to make it work for a frugal price, we'd like to think.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Joel. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Now, do you have somebody, Jessica, from historical?
I was just going to present the historical budget, yeah.
Yeah, you're all set. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Joel.
It's about how my Barre housing and cemetery needs go as well.
All right.
Have a great night, everybody.
You too.
Good night.
Lester Paquin typically presents the historical commission's budget, but with his recent passing, and there's really not many other active members of the historical commission, I thought that it would be appropriate for me to just let the finance committee know that they are requesting level funded budget. We're going to get the commission back up to full capacity here pretty soon. The select board has 2 appointments on Monday night, and as of now, the historical commission has not spent anything out of their budget for this year, but I think due to COVID, that's probably on par with what we should expect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And will they be letting us know what they plan on doing?
Plan on doing with the money?
Yeah. Well, last year's money in this one. Usually Lester has what historical marker they're putting up.
So I know
Or they
that
work.
my most recent conversations with Lester, we talked about the Quack Walker sign.
Yeah.
And so I think, I can't speak for the historical commission, but that is a potential project that they'll focus on. I think if they don't expend any funds out of this year's budget, it will just roll back into the general fund, and we'll use it to cover up, another expense account that overexpended. But for next year, we can have them revisit this conversation in a couple of months, but I know that they're going to have 3 out of 5 members are going to be new on the commission, so I can assume that it would be pretty difficult to give that question to them right away.
Jump right in
right.
Yeah.
But if they have something before we have our town meeting and that, it would be nice to know, if they do have plans or what they're doing. Okay. Now, the assessors,
All right.
are they here?
Yeah, I'm bringing in our new administrative assessor, who took over for Eileen White, and her name is Rachel, so I'm gonna go get Jessie from the other room to present the budget, and Rachel can introduce herself to the finance committee.
Okay.
Can you hear us, Rachel?
She's on mute.
Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, you all disappeared for a few minutes. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Rachel Carney. I'm the new assessor, hoping to fill Eileen's shoes. Not sure how much I can contribute to this budget today. I'm brand new and I haven't even had an opportunity to discuss much with the board on it, but I do have Jessie here tonight who is fully informed and hopefully can answer all your questions.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah,
Sounds
that
good.
sounds good.
Jesse, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so I understand you all copy.
The microphones are up here, so it'll be hard for them to hear.
Rachel, we had questions, it was brought up, I think Dan had brought it up,
Oh,
On-
evaluations?
yeah. You want to ask about that, the monies that we put aside each year for
We have
the,
we have Jessie here from the Board of Assessors to discuss any questions that you guys might have.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's on the monies that we put aside for every year for the, what's it called?
It says property evaluation in the expenditure.
Yeah, the valuation for each year, is it every 3 years they do a redo on the evaluation? And we've been putting money aside each year in an article for it?
Not exactly. There's every 5 years, the Department of Revenue requires us to meet a very specific set of requirements, and it's called a revaluation year. And then generally we start requesting funds for that 2 years in advance. We just had a reval year last year, so now we're in the interim period. So now it's just a matter of requesting an amount every year for the interim until it's time to start funding for the reval again, which would be 5 years from now.
We were, Dan, weren't you asking about that because there was so much money set aside
Yes.
for it?
So if that's every 5 years, what's the cost when that occurs? Like, what's the overall valuation cost or approximate cost?
So I'm not actually sure. I'd have to look at the ledger to know, to give you an exact amount of what we spent for the revaluation year. So I can't really give an answer to that one. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
But it was an expense for this year, right?
Oh, yeah.
For this past year.
21,
For
the year we're in fiscal?
the current fiscal year, it's just a normal interim value year. So
Okay.
we were requesting on the budget about $4,000, because 2 years ago when we were doing the last interim year evaluation, that's what it cost roughly for us to get everything done.
When you got on the books,
Yeah.
I mean, there's significant, I mean, you have
There's 89,000 on the books.
from articles that were passed. And then we just passed another 15,000 at the town.
But
meeting.
2017, they go back.
Yeah, 15, actually.
Yeah, 15.
15, right. 17 was.
Okay, I'm not sure what account that's in. I'm not familiar with the ledger as Eileen kept them. I'm
Okay.
sure that that's accounted for under something with her accounting, but as far as if that's just in like a reserve fund, or if that's funds unspent, I can't speak to that because I haven't actually looked at the ledger, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah, those are the articles that are requested from the town meeting. There's funds, limited funds, some funds were spent this year, fiscal '21. But we have articles open that are funded from 2015, 2017, 2018, 2019, and then again requested this past year, for 2020, I should say, for another 15,000. So you guys plan on asking the town to vote for more money again this year?
What were those articles for?
Property valuations.
Property valuation. I'm surprised because basically I'm not sure what, those are probably distributed in the budget breakdown that I have here. I don't know if you have a copy of this.
Yeah.
But,
No, I don't think they appear in the budget. That's the
No.
problem.
oh,
Okay? That's the problem with them. Okay?
I see.
They show up at the town meeting and it gets put in there, but it doesn't show up. It's not in that budget that you guys have.
Each of these articles, they're accepted by the town separately from this type of budget.
Okay.
So I think this could be a good question for Rob LaRue.
Yeah, I will definitely talk to Rob
Yeah.
about it because my knowledge about those funds is very limited. I might assume that, like I said before, when you're prepping for revaluation, you have to raise a lot of money, so much so that you have to start doing it about 2 years in advance.
Mhm.
There's an recommendation for that.
Yeah,
So I'm guessing that that's what that was for.
okay.
I can't say definitively, but I'll definitely talk to Rob. about
It's
that.
about $70,000.
Hmm.
So that's,
If it's for every 5 years.
Every 5, yeah.
yeah.
It adds up, Brian, to 89. I added it up today.
That's probably what that was for, is to prepare for the revaluation year, because there's a very stringent and extensive list of data sets and requirements that we have to pass for the Department of Revenue to be approved.
Now, when are we doing the next evaluation?
Last year was the last one, so it would be 2025 is the next reval year.
Okay. So if we've got 89,000 in there now, how much did it cost for this last evaluation?
For the total cost, like I said before, I don't have an exact number. I'd have to look at the ledgers that Eileen kept. We do have that on record
Yeah.
somewhere, I think, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. Because if we could get that number so we'd have some idea, and maybe some of this money has been left over from previous years and could be rolled back into the free cash.
Yeah, I mean, it does look clear. I don't know if Jean's on today.
Jean's not going to be here tonight, so we'll have to wait
Okay.
until the next meeting to ask her about these.
Because they did pay out of some of the older accounts.
Right,
this
some
this
of the money
year.
goes and some
Yeah.
doesn't, and last year's was
Yeah.
all spent, and the year before, none was spent.
Yeah, exactly.
So something's going on, but not sure what all it is. But if there's enough money in the bag already for coming up, then we
We got a couple years.
plan that way. If we
Yeah.
don't, then we can deal with whatever's best. But want to make sure you have enough money when you go to do that job.
Yes, I apologize for
Yeah,
not being
no,
able to give a
well, I mean,
more decisive answer.
That's the problem, is some of that stuff doesn't appear on this sheet.
Mm.
And anything that got passed at the town meeting never makes it there. That's why Gene sends us these buggers, okay?
Okay, I'll speak with Robert
Yeah.
LaRue about that. He'd probably be the most knowledgeable about it.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. He must get this, because I think she sends this to everybody that budget report, everybody gets that. So, good, great.
Because if we just completed one and it's paid for, then if we know what that was, then you could kind of know what you're gonna need in 5 years.
Roughly.
Yeah, and I myself am gonna take a look at the budgets and, look at her past ledgers. So we're, meeting as a board on Tuesday evening. I
Uh-huh.
don't know if we could revisit this after we've all had a chance to talk.
Excellent,
Yeah.
beautiful, very good, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sounds good, Rachel.
Yeah,
okay,
And then if you could just let us know that, because we're
definitely, yeah.
just looking at this money that's been left there for quite a few years.
Yeah, and I don't know offhand what the expense was for the reval or the cert year, and,
Yeah,
you know, and I'm just so new, I haven't had a chance to go through that yet. We'll get up to speed quick.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
So the assessor, you guys assess all the property values throughout the town, right? Where do you, like, where are we currently? Are we looking in a better position with new construction and stuff like that, where our property values are higher, right?
So, if I remember correctly, during the last year, we didn't have a lot of new growth. Some new homes, not a lot, not as much as we did the year prior. Again, sorry, as far as actual numbers, I don't have that information right in front of me.
Yeah, Jesse,
Yeah.
I just got done entering all the new growth today, and we're close to 3 million in new growth.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, yep, and that's between personal property and real estate. Not a lot of new construction, but just a lot of improvements and, you know, obviously some new construction as well, but not a ton of new construction. But it did add up. It was close to 3,000. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but, yeah. 3 million, I'm sorry.
Yeah, big difference.
almost gave me a heart
Yeah,
attack,
right.
Rachel.
Now, are you asking for basically an overall like net value?
Yeah, I was just looking for, I'm new to this, so I'm just asking questions.
So as of the last sales report, in terms of single-family homes, I believe the ballpark average was about 217,000 for valuation of the house. I don't remember off the top of my head how many of those composite that sector in this town. But that's something that I can find out later, whether it be Tuesday or at soon opportunity, and email that to you if you'd like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I don't know if anyone else had any questions. I just had a question on the administrative assessor salary, because it's over budget for the current year?
We had to pay the retired assessor out for her vacation time. So yes, that, and she put in many years of service to the town and did not take many hours of vacation.
Yeah, we know that.
That was good for her. And then your upcoming budget, you were underfunded by 9%, is that correct?
For
Your proposed budget for 2022?
It's, part of that is a slight reduction in the administrative assessor's wage. Because Rachel is relatively new, whereas I've been worked there 30+ years. As far as, I think that's really the major difference. But as far as everything else, it's just normal step-ups for all the wage increases. And then I think everything else that we're requesting in terms of funding is more or less the same as it was 2 years ago when we weren't in a reval year.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So how is the board set up? Like, I mean, we're talking about Rob LaRue and his part in the board. So how does the board operate differently than the staff of the department? What do you do? How is it set up? How does it work?
So, basically, I assist the administrative assessor. We do a lot of the field work and the actual visitation inspections. Occasionally, the other board members, Michael and Rob, will also accompany us on them.
Okay.
They handle a lot more of the administrative side of things. Rob, I know, handles a lot of communications with other towns as well, and also assists in, I believe he assists in composing the budget sheets. And the rest of us just kind of fill in wherever we can. So it's not really a very hard structure. It's a little bit fluid, but that's basically the roles that we build.
So you were just 3 people?
Yeah, yes.
One more question.
Yes.
What type of background or degrees do you have as assessors? Is it like, I mean, are they engineering degrees? Are they real estate backgrounds?
So for myself, I actually started just about 2 years ago with no prior experience. And I just kind of learned, and I'm still learning some things. I learn as I learn. Rob, I don't know in detail a lot about his experience. I know that he also started fresh many years ago. I think he started as an administrative assessor. I might be wrong about that, but I know that he's served in some capacity similar to that in several different towns at this point. Michael and Eileen basically both started, I think, with no experience about 30 years ago or so. They grew into what the assessment department is today. So short answer.
On the job training?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's great.
It's stuff that it's really, because of the nature of the work, you have to learn it as you go. There's some stuff like how to learn how to use the software, the timing of which things have to be done, that can be learned, but most of it's just we learn as we go.
And there's training, right?
Yes.
State,
I assume.
state run
Yeah.
training.
Yep, and actually that's part of what we're paying for with the dues and with the tuition and meeting and travel section of the budget here is we're paying for the Massachusetts Association of Assessing Officers provides us with classes and learning opportunities to learn how to do this.
So there's like a set schedule, like where you go out, you look at a property, you punch it into a program, and it spits out the numbers, or?
Kind of.
Okay.
Basically, essentially, yes. As far as I know, the computer does a lot of the work. I myself, my part of the work is primarily data collection, data entry.
Mhm.
So I don't actually process a lot of the actual valuing of the homes. A lot of that is done through vision software that we do, and through a vendor, which for the interim value adjustment part of the budget, that's why we were requesting $4,000. We usually pay Vision, which is our vendor for assessing homes,
Mhm.
to gather data for us, and then the system basically evaluates what those homes are worth based on market value.
And property values in town are on the rise like everywhere else.
It generally seems to be that way, looking at the last couple of sales reports. I don't know if that trend is going to continue, but yeah.
Because what you assess is essentially what we pay in taxes, right? The
Yeah.
value of the property.
Yes.
So, is Barre like in line with the surrounding towns with their valuation currently, or?
I wouldn't know without looking at the data for those neighboring towns.
Okay. All right, cool.
Did anyone else have any questions? Or?
Oh, good,
Oh,
thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and I can explain, if you'd like, I can explain what each category is that we're asking for, what it does. Otherwise.
That might help with that. We've got 2 new members on our committee this year, so that may help them.
Okay.
Just
Yeah, I'll just run through it very quickly.
Yeah.
So as far as the section regarding wages, that's all normal, standard yearly increase for those. For the lower section, deeds and plans, it doesn't happen often, that's why the request is for so little, but occasionally we do need to request certified deeds. You can normally access a lot of deeds, 90% of deeds for free on the Worcester Registry of Deeds on the website. But occasionally, depending on the type of information we need a certified deed, and those cost money, and that's what that fund is for. For postage, and that's pretty self-explanatory, if we need to mail documents, we need to pay for that. We haven't required any sort of telephone maintenance, so there's 0 in the budget for that. Subscriptions is, there are various data sources, regular data sources, publications that are put out regarding valuing practices and also market trends that we can research. So that's what that is for. For our supplies, that's just standard office supplies. Dues, like I said, we pay dues to the Massachusetts Association of Assessing Officers and also the Worcester Assessors Association. And that gives us access to classes and learning opportunities and extra tools that we can use to conduct our job. For the mapping, we pay a organization, I think it's called Central Mass Planning. And they,
Yeah,
and
RPC, yeah.
and they compose all of the tax maps that we have every year on database, and they update those every year, so that's very important to us. For tuition, meetings, and travel, that's if any of us are taking a class put on by the MAAO, that pays for any sort of travel expenses or learning experiences like that. The vision appraisal, the $8,000 there, that's just the annual license fee for the software that we use to conduct all of our evaluations and to have all of the information on record. So that's probably the most important aspect. And then, what I think I've already explained, the annual interim value adjustment, that just pays for the vendor that we use to help us gather data to assess homes every year, not just homes, but all properties in Barre. And then computer equipment replacement is self-explanatory, but it's not necessary at this time.
Good, great.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
So I think that's all, and just if you get us on the evaluation thing, the monies that are in there, and if they, every 5 years, what it costs.
Yeah, and more information about where the article money is spent.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'll have that information ready for the meeting on Tuesday so that we can figure that out.
Yeah, we can discuss it, yeah.
okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you very
Good,
much.
thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet everyone.
Yes, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Now, Council on Aging. Are they available, Jessica?
Yeah, I'm just bringing her in now.
All right, good.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we can.
All right, how are you?
Good.
How are you?
Good, good. Did you have questions? Pretty self-explanatory.
Now, on your salary,
Yep.
is that with a COLA?
Which one? Which column?
Well, the FY2022, the 49,155.
Says with COLA.
That is with,
139, if you could explain that first.
okay. Well, my department, unfortunately, I am like a loner. I don't have anybody that helps me. I'm by myself. I do everything. So with the years of experience that I have and the degree, according to the pay scale, that's about where I should be. Now 5,000 of that is paid through the formula grant. So the town doesn't pay that $5,000. So that's how I came up with that.
Now, so when you go for the, to the 44, that's the 5,000 off,
Yes, correct,
comes from that formula grant.
correct.
So that's still going up. Well, probably 3,000 something else from the 39 to the 44.
Well, yes, that's what it should be, I believe. I'm trying to remember. I did this a while ago, so I'm trying to
Because
remember.
right now, we're not including COLA.
Okay,
We're gonna do it without COLA first, and then we'll add COLA in.
oh, I see.
Depending how our total numbers come out.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, what,
So if you based it on the 21 final, that's what it would be without anything.
okay,
But you also have to add in the 5,000 from that.
because that gets subtracted off the bottom, right?
Right, because the 5,000 is paid through a grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you could explain that grant, because we have 2 new members on the finance,
Certainly.
how that goes.
Every year, the state awards councils on aging, senior centers, what they call a formula grant. And you reapply every year. And they have changed some of it, the process and the steps. But that is essentially what it is. It's a line item with the state, with their budget, and you're awarded it based on the amount of folks you have over the age of 60. So, for instance, Barre has almost 1,000 based on the 2010 census, and it's per elder, so it's a certain amount per elder. Sometimes it's, I believe right now it's $12 an elder, so for every elder you get $12. So we have almost 1,000 elders, so I receive $11,844, I think it is. So that's how that is, that's where that figure comes from.
So that figure fluctuates each census.
Yes, so this year, when the census counts come out, which should be this month, in April, May, they said they will be releasing those, that census, it will change our outcomes for next year. Because the population, the older population is rising, so that's going to probably change the amount per elder we see.
And you're the only, employee of the Senior Center Council of Aging?
Correct. I do everything.
And how does if you know this, how does your salary compare to surrounding towns of similar size?
It's lower.
This budget is that's the whole budget for your whole office, okay, including the Hardwick people, et cetera now. So this is the budget for everything that goes on there. Is that correct? However, we get money somewhere.
Yes, and also, Hardwick will be contributing their portion to this budget.
Right, but that doesn't show up on this page, does it?
Correct.
It was in the.
And as long as the selectmen agree to another year, then that will be also taken off of this budget.
Could you
Now, Eileen, what did they pay last year?
I'm not sure exactly. I know, I think it was about $18,000, maybe $19,000.
19,000.
Somewhere around there, yeah. I saw
Yeah.
something like that.
Can you explain that? Because I'm new to this. Can you explain, so Hardwick doesn't have a council on aging and they contract through us?
Correct. So I cover 2 towns.
And
So I'm the director for 2 towns, So basically, it's 2 senior centers, even though it's one building, but I assist those in Hardwick and I assist those in Barre.
Eileen, you said there was 1,000 people over 60 in Barre, and you get $12 per elder in the grant, that's 12,000? Well, how did?
Correct.
But you have 5,000 here, that was involved in this grant, right? But it's-
5,000 comes out of that grant to cover the salary.
where
That
does
was
the-
something that was done before me.
Where does the rest of the grant go?
It helps to supplement events and activities and programming. It pays for instructors, it pays for conferences, it pays for other essentials like that.
And those are listed in this budget?
No,
No,
no, that's the problem. It's too many.
Eileen, could you possibly give us a list of what you have spent on the grant money for this past year? So that we get an idea of what it's, paying for. We have no idea.
okay, well, it's a separate part,
Because it used to be subtract off your total budget.
no,
A
It
few
wasn't.
years ago it was. When
okay,
you
I don't
were-
believe it is, now, just the 5,000 is taken off of the,
Yeah.
this
But
budget.
it used to be a whole thing, because it was like 9,000 something, probably before you started.
Okay,
And they would put the budget in and then subtract that off,
okay,
so that we saw it. But if we could see what that money's being used for, we know 5,000 is for your salary. But if you could
Right.
give us kind of a list of what the other monies are being spent on.
sure. Like I said, it goes for instructors, it goes for different classes that I take, it pays for my senior center, it does things like that.
But if you could give us just a formal list, so that we had it with
Sure.
with our information and our budget things.
Yep,
One more question on that grant. So that grant is just for Barre. Is there a grant also for Hardwick?
yes, there is.
Is that included in that 5,000, or is that an additional grant?
That's a separate town, separate monies.
Goes to the town. I think it goes to Hardwick, though. They
Yeah,
have to
does-
pay
And that comes out.
Does it go to Barre or Hardwick?
Hardwick.
I'm sorry?
Does it go to Barre or Hardwick?
It is for, it goes to Hardwick. However, I'm the one that, does what it does. And right now, I'm working with Hardwick on hiring, an outreach worker. It did pay for a person to answer the phone at the senior center, but, with the COVID, she wasn't coming in because of that. So, after talking with the town administrator and the council on aging board, it was, I could use an outreach worker, more than somebody to answer the phone. Anybody can answer the phone? That was the thought.
Yeah. And if that came out of, Hardwick's money.
Yep, that's where their formula grant will be going.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions?
No, I think that,
Is the building currently open to the public?
We are open. We were open today, we had bingo, we had coffee with an officer, and they played cards after that.
good.
We have other events going on. A lot of folks are asking to come back. I'm not sure about the meals. I have been doing most of the booking for appointments for folks, both in Barre and in Hardwick, so I've been on the phone constantly, booking appointments for folks. But we are open, part-time.
That's great.
Great.
And you need some what's the condition of the building over there? Because I know at the town meeting, we voted, to move some funds from the vapor barrier, because that was provided by a grant. And I saw on one, maybe CapEx, future CapEx was a roof replacement.
Yes, we believe the roof is going to be needing to be replaced soon. The building is going on 17 years old, so it's probably going to be time pretty soon. We have had a few leaks. We did have a leak in the building back in January. They're still in the process of repairing and replacing the sheetrock and some of the things in there. The ceiling did get finished. They had to replace some of the vapor barrier that was damaged. And I'm not sure about some of the rugs, if they're going to be replaced. We have some siding that needs some work that keeps falling down. So they're starting to be some wear, and that's something, that is probably going to need to be addressed.
Now, Eileen, are you going to talk to the selectmen about the roof? For an article on the town meeting?
Probably, yep. Because I know the 25,000 that's in an account that was for the vapor area.
Yeah.
The Council on Aging Board would like to see a roof, use that money to replace the roof before we start having issues.
Yeah, but you need more than the 25,000. You need to get a quote.
Right.
A few
Yes, I'm aware of
quotes
that.
on that. And probably should do it before town meeting,
Yes,
because it would have to be an article on there, so,
right.
yeah. Now, I noticed you don't have anything in for escort service for 22.
I don't think he's going to be doing it, the gentleman that does it.
So you won't have any escort service? Do you need that?
That is something, a gentleman volunteers, well, he doesn't really, he gets paid for that. And he, would help folks with their groceries,
Yeah?
for the van.
But you don't have anybody that's gonna be doing it, so what will you do for replacing that?
I'm not sure. Might have some volunteers that could do it.
Oh, okay. And then I noticed you don't have any snow removal.
The town started to do it.
Okay,
We used to have to pay somebody, but the town has somebody that's doing it.
okay. I thought that was the case, but I wasn't sure. And then your HVAC maintenance has gone up 1,500?
Yes, I have 2 units that need repairs and maintenance.
Yeah?
I have one unit, the fan isn't working, and another unit that isn't blowing, so they're gonna need some service.
Okay.
17 years old.
So I think that's all the questions that I have right now.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
No, how many, I'm just curious, how many folks, use the senior center, like pre-COVID?
On a normal week,
Yeah.
if we weren't in COVID,
Yeah.
I can probably about 100, 125.
Oh, so a decent
good.
amount, yeah. Great, that's all I have, thank you.
Okay, if that's it,
Yeah,
unless
thank you
there's
very
more
much.
questions.
I'm all set.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen.
Okay, you're welcome. Have a great weekend. Happy Easter.
Thank
You
you.
too. Now we have the library.
Good thing I signed on early.
Yeah, exactly.
We're moving along pretty fast tonight.
Yeah. I know a couple of the trustees were planning to attend. I don't know if they're actually here yet, but
Is Sherry Benoit one of them?
yes.
Sorry.
And Dave Deschamps was also planning to.
I don't see a Dave yet.
Well, I did tell them 8, so.
We just messed you up, that's all.
Well, you're moving things smoothly along, I'm sure. As I hope you're about to do now.
Yeah.
Knock wood. All right, so what would you like? I just signed on, as I said, so would you like the regular plan first?
Yes,
Or-
I think so.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the level funded that was requested. So the only changes were to the staff, the step increases as required by the town. So there are 4 in fiscal year 22. That would be, let's see, Julia Palmer, Kaylee Hart, who is our floater, so it doesn't affect us as much. Kayla Phillips and Jenna Garvey. Those would all be the step increases. I had a step increase, sorry?
Now, does this include COLA?
This does not include COLA because we were not told.
Okay, yeah, because we're doing it without COLA until we see
Yeah.
how everything falls in.
Yes. So the reason why the directors increased, it's because I do not budget for the entire amount. I had the increase this year, this fiscal year. So I had to budget part of the year using the my previous salary plus part of the year using my new salary, but now fiscal year 22, I get the full,
Okay,
for the full year. Also, I had to budget increase for Joe Hood because he should be finishing his bachelor's degree. So he would get the educational incentive.
mhm.
That's why there are the various increases for basically all lines of the staff.
Okay.
Does that put everybody where they should be now? Basically on the right step?
Well, yes, for what it is, yes. I mean, they are currently at the right step. They will be at the right step then. Whether or not they're at the right classification level is a whole other
Oh,
issue.
I know, it's a mess, but,
Yes, so, but yes, this is all the right step levels, this is all the right education levels, et cetera. So, again, for the expenses, the only increases are, as many of you know, we are required to meet the materials expenditure requirement by the state.
Now, can you explain that a little bit, Carol?
Yes,
We have two new finance committee members, so.
yes, I was planning to.
Okay, great.
So
Right.
both the budget and the materials, that would be the circulating materials, the books, videos, and public technology, 10% of that, have to be at a certain level to help us meet our certification and be eligible for state aid. So the materials expenditure requirement is 19% of the operating expenses for that fiscal year. So as anything changes, like salary increases, if we have to increase utilities because, oil prices or gas prices have gone way up, then we need to still make sure that the circulating materials is at least 19% of the budget. So that is why there's an increase in those lines despite the level funded request, because it's necessary for us to be certified and qualify for state aid. So those levels are, for the other lines in expenses, they are remaining the same. The network fees, that's the library network, CW Mars, that we're part of, so that they operate our library system, so the catalog and all the back-end things. The office supplies and library supplies are shown as level funded in that. And so the other part, the utilities, I did decrease the building total slightly based on some of our expenses over the past number of years. So that helps to offset the increase in the expenses a bit, but that was the only change. I did add a line because it caused a lot of confusion for town of Barre, water and sewer, because it was listed under building even though it was a utility. And so every time I would do a warrant, they would say, oh, what is this for the town of Barre? And it's like, well, it's the utility that we have to pay. So I separated that from the building line to the utilities line just to make that clearer.
That's good.
Makes sense.
Okay, so are there any questions about that?
Does anyone have any questions?
Nope.
Let's hear the good news.
Well, I did submit a Plan B. So the changes in the Plan B are to increase the number of hours per week for our two regular part-time assistants. One of them is currently at 12 hours and one of them is at 11 hours per week. So they would both be increased to 15 hours per week. We have been short-staffed for long before I got here, and as we get busier over time, it's just going to keep getting worse. So we really need more hours. Part of it, we need to be able to staff both floors properly. For those of you who may not have been inside the building or We do have 2 floors of material that are used constantly. And we are supposed to have 2 people, at least 2 staff members on each floor. And that has not happened for years because there hasn't been the staffing. And there have been safety issues for that. And the trustees did vote on that at some point before I came here. And I know last year before COVID hit, there was a violent incident that caused more concern. So there were discussions with the chair and the other trustees that we are really going to have to have at least 2 people per floor if we're going to keep both floors open at the same time. So this would be a start towards staffing things properly. We certainly need more than that, but we recognize that, we can't do everything at once.
And Carol, how much do you estimate that would cost for the extra hours?
So for the library assistants in the level funding was $19,110. And for Plan B, it is $24,475.
So approximately 5,000?
Yeah, under 5,000, but around that. So under the expenses, we put in a request for $1,000 for office supplies and $1,000 for library supplies. In the level funding, it's $400 for each, and neither has been adequate for a long time. Like for library supplies, $400 could be one order. So this is, all the labels, the spine labels we have to do, all the processing material. So all the book jacketing, so the extra covers to protect the books, stickers, like for the juvenile, for sometimes biography or graphic novels have a sticker to indicate, okay, this is what that is. Barcodes. We go through a number of barcodes every year, and we did have to place an order for one this year, and that, as if you're looking at the sheet right now, you can see the expenditures to the end of 2020 year itself was already over 200%. And it's only gone up from there because these are items we need. Again, with office supplies, $400 really isn't all that much. Like any office, we go through a lot. We also go through a lot of copier paper for printing and photocopying for patrons. So it's not just what we use, it's what the patrons use. So again, the $1,000 each does not necessarily cover the expenses, but it moves us towards more appropriate levels of funding, and neither of these have gone up for, I think it was 2008, perhaps, that the funding levels dropped for that, and they just haven't increased. So again, this is a start. We're going to go over budget. otherwise, we still may go over budget, but it's trying to reach a balance. And with those increases, we, again, due to the materials expenditure requirement, because the operating expenses would increase for the staffing hours and the supplies, we have to increase the material expenditure requirement to meet that 19% level, which I always make sure that it does so that we do not lose state funding or certification. Because some of you were around, I believe, for when the library did not meet those requirements. Right.
Yep.
So that is it for that. Are there any questions on that part?
Does anyone have any questions at all?
I just wanted, the Plan B basically will allow you your 2 people per floor for the safety issue, right?
Yes. I mean, it won't help us with everything that we need to be able to do, but it will help us with that, yes.
Yeah.
When does the library anticipate reopening to the public?
Right.
Well, we're watching the numbers very closely. So I've been doing that for all year. We do have our reopening plan, and it's on our website if you haven't read it yet. We've been basing it on the numbers, and at this time, we have 1 staff member who got her 2nd shot yesterday. 1 should have got her 2nd shot a couple hours ago. 2 of us are scheduled to tomorrow. 1 other staff member is scheduled for a couple of weeks from now, and I think the other one is still just trying to work out childcare for, to make sure if she gets sick that the children are taken care of. So with that and our safety precautions, our materials like the barriers and such, we are hoping, assuming that the numbers do not increase a lot, to
What numbers?
look at, say, the end of May, early June. So before the end of this fiscal year, we're hoping. It will be a slow rollout just to make sure everything is okay. But that also becomes tricky because we need to make sure that, say any circulating material that gets touched, we need to sanitize it. So.
Now, on those expenses for sanitation, is that covered by the CARES Act?
Yes, we did make a request for the CARES Act funding. We got that. So we've got like a bunch of shielding to protect the staff and protect the patrons, of course. We've got some, directional signage. We've got a bunch of wipes. We've got some hand sanitizer dispensers. So that was covered.
And another question I would have is, so you said that some of the budget has been reduced, since 2008. Pre-COVID, what were your average numbers? Were they increasing? Increasing folks coming in and visiting the library since 2008?
Oh, yes. And it's not only Barre residents that come in, like we seem to be a kind of district hub. So, which is good for our circulation numbers and our attendees, but it does put a bit more of a strain, I guess, on how much we can do for people in the library because we don't have the staff.
Yeah, exactly. Well, personally, I'll say I think you guys play a vital role to the town, and myself and the family, we love going there, so
Well, we look forward to having everyone back. We don't like being closed, but we want people to be safe too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's, no, that's understandable. And I think the library helps the community, and it should be appropriately funded. That way you have the proper people working there, and that people that want to work there, and you provide that service for the town.
Well, and we did get some extra COVID funding for staff hours too in December, and it was a noticeable difference just how much we were able to get done in that time, having just our current staff have some extra hours each. You know, eventually we'd like to have more staff too, but you know, future.
Yeah, I hear that.
Now, Carol, do you have any of the air purifiers? We do have 2 air purifiers that the town provided.
Uh-huh.
Now, given
That will help to open up also.
yes, and the HVAC system that we have does apparently it circulates the air, so it I wouldn't say purifies, but it does filter out the airs, and we've made sure that the filters get changed. They hadn't been changed for a while, and so, and the BLA was starting to get quotes about upgrading the system as well.
Uh-huh.
So, and there may be some more funding coming in from the federal level that would help with that.
Yeah, because that would help you also,
It would.
be able to open.
Because we really
Yes.
don't know how long you're gonna have to provide PPE and other sanitation devices for. Are there any plans in your expenses here to purchase those through the library budget, or is that all funded through grants in the CARES Act right now?
Right now, that would be through grants. Now, we do have some that we keep around anyway. We normally had bottles of hand sanitizer around just because, you know, people need it, especially at the kids' room.
Yeah.
And so we normally have some of that on hand anyway.
Well, exactly. 'Cause, I mean, the library, you guys probably have the highest touch point items, you know, so.
Yes, and one of the things we did buy with the CARES Act funding was a sanitizer, which it's UVC lighting that blasts the books, and it can also do technology, so computers. It can do anything pretty much except for cloth, like toys, but it also blows air on it, so it will help remove dust and mold, and so that can be used even beyond COVID, because that would be good for like cold season, flu season, especially with the kids' items that get touched constantly.
Thank you for your multi-page discussion. Appreciated that. That's very well done.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
So if there's no other questions, we can move on, and Carol can move on. Unless you want to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Depends how long it goes.
Okay. Now, Jessica, do you have any updates for us?
I do not this week. I haven't heard anything more about the federal funds that we can be looking to receive, so. That's
Okay. No more capital requests requested?
Not other than, I know that I mentioned last week that the school had reached out to me about their combi oven, and
Yep.
and then they're also, Ruggles Lane has a generator that's on the capital improvement list for this year to be replaced. still haven't gotten anything from the DPW or sewer. And I know that the senior center director was just talking about the roof replacement, but the roof replacement isn't on the capital plan until I think FY25. So I think, you know, we can probably wait, if we can, another year or two.
Okay,
I mean,
Yeah,
we
I-
obviously will keep an eye on the situation, but if it comes down to the town halls, the old town hall down on Exchange Street severely needs a new roof. The shingles keep flying off of it. There you go. So, you know, I don't think we're having that issue at the senior center, so I think that would be a higher priority this year than the senior center roof.
yeah. Yeah, you had mentioned that before, that there were problems with that. Now, Ted, would you like to talk about all your work you did? Looking through old town reports.
Sandy did more work than I did, and Ellen, they both did a lot of
Well,
work.
thank you, Sandy, thank you.
I guess the bottom line of this is, there's no more mysteries about this money, okay? There is no more information at all, other than it looks like it's some sort of a kind of slush fund for some time later, okay? So, my feeling is that we go to Jason, because it looks like a lot of that would be his department, and if this money could be used in some other way for his department, a truck body or something, okay? Or but any new projects should not be done out of the normal budget, operating budget, okay? So, in the future, if we're gonna talk about fixing a bridge, we name the bridge, we give the expected price in a year, and then go debt excluded X number of dollars per year, so this money gets put away for that project and then spent, and it's over with, rather than operating. So it seems to me that this other money here probably won't need to be spent for any of that stuff, but I don't know what everyone else thinks.
Well, what Jane had said before was what we'd have to do is have these removed, I believe. Isn't that how it goes, Jessica?
Yes.
At town meeting?
Yep.
And then that goes into free cash, right?
Correct.
And then we could, at some point, like Ted said, a project's gonna be done, then we take money and do the project.
Yeah, and it's very unlikely, as Ted mentioned, you know, debt exclusions, it's very unlikely that we will be able to fund any bridge project out of an operating budget, just because if we
Right.
did, it would take up more than probably the school takes up for our budget. So, that would leave us with nothing left to operate with. So, a lot of times bridge projects are either funded through some kind of grant, some kind of earmark, and debt exclusion really financed through any other way except for our operating budget, because
Right.
there's not much that you can fix for $50,000 on bridge.
No. And it is 57,000, and that's for sidewalks and bridges. Which it's not gonna be much to do any of that, really.
Correct.
So could we make a recommendation that these articles be, I don't know how to word it, pulled off the, rescinded, I guess was what it would be.
Would that have to be waited till we get to town meeting, Claire, do you think?
Oh,
Yeah, I think that's how it has to be, from what I've heard. It has to be rescinded at town meeting.
Yep.
And then it will go into the free cash.
Okay.
Have we talked to Jason about these yet?
Not really.
I think it would be a more appropriate
Yeah.
conversation to have with the DPW commission.
Yeah, I agree.
possibly.
I agree.
You're right.
Yes. Could we ask to have them come into our next meeting?
I think we got the schools next week.
Yeah, the schools are the next meeting.
Yeah,
Could go down to their meeting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if it's gonna be 6 in one, half dozen in the other, if you guys go to their meeting, or if they come to this meeting.
Yeah.
I think they should come to our meeting.
Got your stick ready?
They need to. Maybe it's about time they did come and
That's
talk
true.
to us.
What do we got for?
See where our meetings are. So the next one is the 2 schools. Have we gotten anything from them at all, Jessica, yet?
I've gotten, I haven't gotten anything from Quabbin except for they are expecting a 6.2% increase in their overall operating budget. I haven't gotten any, anything specific for the town of Barre. And I did get Monty Tech's presentation, and our assessment is going down because our enrollment numbers are going down.
Mm.
And so in a school like Monty Tech, that kind of correlates
Yeah.
with, when our enrollment numbers go down, our assessment goes down.
Well, how about if we had them come into the meeting after the next one?
29th?
Yeah, I can't find that paper on my desk here right now. It's been back and forth and everywhere. Yeah. On the April 29th, just to talk to us about it, because this wouldn't have to be done till just before the town meeting.
So are you proposing a joint meeting, or do you just want like 1 or 2 representatives? We just have to be careful, because if they're gonna show up
Yeah.
in quorum, we have to have a joint meeting.
Right, maybe we should put it on as a joint.
Yeah.
And then whoever shows up, but we're still covered for it.
Yep.
So if they could come in for that meeting.
So maybe at the same time when we're talking to them about moving that out of the budget into free cash, we can also bring up, I think it was Jen in the last meeting, I said we should kind of talk to the mechanics about their vehicles and kind of talking to them about what they might want to put, like get replaced or like get fixed first, and maybe that will kind of soften the blow, because he didn't, when I had asked him about questions about the bridges, he didn't seem to quite want to, you know, let that money out.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we did
Talk
want to, we're mentioning about that, the mechanic.
Well, I think his repair costs, but they went up. Like, he budgeted a significant increase in repairs, right? If I recall.
Yeah, and I think part of that was because it has been level funded for so many years.
That's another subject that should be at this meeting,
Right.
would be the
Yeah.
capital, because we haven't seen that yet.
Well, exactly. I mean, I know you mentioned they're operating trucks that are 40 years old. You know, that's expensive repair. I mean, you think about fuel economy from 1978 to today on a diesel truck. I mean, it's a significant difference.
Right, so maybe those are something that he would want to start thinking about, if not replacing, like I'm guessing it's less to drop an engine into a vehicle than it would be to replace the entire thing if the body's still good.
maybe this is something we can bring up with the board there, the DPW board. So if we have them come in, we can come up with any questions, any of us, that we want to ask about the DPW. Just to understand how what they're facing and what they're doing. So if you could do that, Jen, for the April 29th meeting, and we could have them come in the same time as we do and start talking about that right away.
Yep, I'll put the ask out to the DPW, and hopefully I'll get a response.
Okay. And then the other thing, looking through the things, we've usually had Felton Field come in every year,
Yes.
and I noticed we haven't had them come in.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to discuss that, that's a good segue, discuss that with the finance committee. So they did receive a donation this past year of a pretty good chunk of land, and we just finalized that donation this past week. And so they are requesting, over the past year, so I don't know, Dan and Carrie, the Felton Field is funded, under my understanding, largely based off of somebody who previously owned the piece of the park, and they donated it to the town with trust money to continue funding the maintenance of it. But it's been many years since that individual made the donation to the town, and so the trust money is getting a little bit lower. And so the Felton Field Commission had a conversation with me about becoming a permanent item in our budget.
Yeah.
So because, these, as a lot of volunteers in town do, they volunteer not only their time, but their money and their equipment. So they go out, they mow the area with their own equipment, and they spend their own money a lot of times on trying to maintain it, in conjunction with, they do get money from the town pretty regularly, but it comes through asking for free cash to help fund different projects, versus now they're kind of transitioning into a mindset that they need funding to help just with regular maintenance. So that's something that wouldn't necessarily come out of a free cash item every year.
But they back in June of 2019, Article 17, they had 15,000, they got 2,800 left.
Yes.
And, somebody should be spending it or whatever. So if we had them in here,
Yep.
could talk about that stuff and
Yeah.
keep that from just hanging around.
Right,
You know?
right, and again, it goes back to the conversation we've been having the past couple of meetings on, like, making sure we clean up extra
Right.
article money. So like I said, every time that the Felton Field comes to the town asking for money out of free cash, it's for a specific project. So that project where they thought they needed 15,000 is probably completed,
That's what I think.
and they don't know that there's still $2,800
Yeah,
left.
that's
Or,
it.
That could be
or
good.
they thought that they didn't use that last 2,800, so the town's gonna do whatever it needs to do with it.
So let me ask, I have a question on that. So if they become part of the town's operating budget, why not just have them merge with Parks and Rec?
That was gonna be my suggestion,
Yeah.
is that we can put a specific account that it says Felton Field, but we put it under the Parks and Rec, budget.
With their monetary donation that they've been working off of, would that become part of the town's receipts?
Jessica,
The trustees,
the whole big long story about Felton Field.
no, the trust wouldn't become a part of the town's
No.
operating funds.
There was, way back, hundreds of years ago.
Oh, come on, Claire.
Well, it was.
You been around that long?
Someone died and donated the money to Felton Field as a commission to run it and take care of it. They collect their monies from all the events they have there. They're receiving monies. And I have asked, and a few have asked before, to see what monies they take in. And they never will show what monies they have. They want, a few years back, they wanted the town to take it over. But it wasn't left like that. It was left as a trust from, I forget the name, from years ago. So there's been a little rivalry there. Now, Quabbin takes care of the tennis courts because they use them for the school, for the classes of tennis. The baseball fields are taken care of, and soccer fields from the soccer and the baseball in town. They maintain them all. Now, there's the horse section, and then there's also the Batiste building. Now, the 4-H has come in, was it last year was the first year that they, Ted, do you remember, Brian? Was it last year or the year before?
1 or 2 years ago. They had.
Last year's COVID, so.
2 years.
Yeah, COVID, we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And they came in and they ran the 4-H fair. They moved it from over in Spencer to Barre. And I think they did some work on the Batiste building. I don't know if they are paying a fee to use the field or they were going to donate or what. It was figured out with the Felton Field. But I know a lot of people felt that we shouldn't be supporting them because we would have to support everything. But they need to come up with what monies they have so we know how solvent they are.
So are
And
they,
the facts.
they currently run as a nonprofit?
Good Lord only knows.
I don't know. Nobody knows what they do.
You know, if they're an LLC,
And
Who
so
knows?
the town just provides them funds because, you know, just to be a good community. They're not operated by the town.
the thing is, town
Yeah.
doesn't own it either, I don't
Completely
think,
independent.
right?
No, the town doesn't own it.
Right, and the Felton Field Commission is an elected body too.
Well, that's the interesting,
Right, yeah.
very interesting.
So what about the property that was just donated? The property that was just donated was donated to the town,
It was donated
It's
to.
donated to Felton Field Commission.
but the town voted on
Yep.
How's that figure? That's a good one too. I don't know.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of background stuff, and I have to know more about what's going on. They should be raising their, Margot gave me some prices they were charging for the, like that big car show they had and everything. And they're pretty cheap. Like $100 or $200 to use that. And he's making big money on there. They haven't gone up in any of their fees.
I mean, I think the town, you know, when we rent out a lot of our space, we only charge about $100,
Right.
$50. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, I
Right.
don't think, I don't know, you gotta be conscientious about how much you wanna charge in Barre.
But it might be
But
a good
with
time for a
Fountain Field, with
discussion with them.
the guy from Rutland that does it, he has it for 2 days. And they make a lot of money down there. It's not just like a thing on the common. So I would need to hear a lot more about it and what we'd have to do, you know, how is the insurance covered? Now, if somebody gets hurt down there, who covers it?
I believe the
They do.
town covers the insurance on that, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, you know, I'd kind of like to get some background and how things are working there now.
The DCR did a reconnaissance report on this a few years back, and it looks like they gave them a few recommendations how they could bring in some money separate from the town, like adopting the Community Preservations Act. And let's see, and then seek nomination of Felton Field to the National Registration of Historical Places. They said could bring in some like grants as well for the fair, including the fairgrounds, it says, and the exhibition hall. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the national registry would be a good opportunity to open them up to more grant opportunities. It's definitely a very historic building. And I know that they're doing they got a grant from the Barre Savings Bank, I believe, to do a lot of that work. But the Community Preservation Act would require the town's vote, and it's a very, it tends to be a very hotly contested thing to bring to communities. So, I don't know, I think
So there would
Barre
have
has
to be a
tried
lot
to.
of discussion on it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think Barre has tried to do the Community Preservation Act before, but I don't think it was successful. Well, I know they don't have it now, so.
What's the plan for the property that they just recently donated? They do
Right.
anything with it or just expanding?
It will expand the park down to the river. So, it just expands recreation opportunities. I don't know if they're gonna open, allow fishing, I don't know what those rules are, but it just expands for more space to enjoy by the water.
They need to be more open with us. If they're wanting money from the town, they need to be open to the selectmen and the town boards. So I think we should have them come in.
That's what I do.
And then we can talk to them. And then make,
We can
Terry,
figure out
those
the
were
next
good
meeting,
ideas that you picked up from DCR there. Bring that up to them and say, well, have you done anything?
Yeah, this report's a great report, if anybody ever wants to look at it.
And where did you find that?
So if you can Google Barre reconnaissance report, and it should come right up for you.
Okay.
It's from the DCR. So I don't know how often we get this done, but this one was from 2008, which I call recent. If there was any, I don't know, was that probably every 20 years you'd want to get that done, 15 for a small town.
Yeah.
And there's just one other item, sorry, that's separate from Felton Field. So for the Council of Aging, I didn't want to bring it up earlier, but once they started talking about it with the library, their HVAC system, they put some money in the budget. So technically, could they get some money from the COVID funds because it's part of air circulation, just to save them a little bit, or?
I think it'll depend on what the issue is that they're having at the senior center. If it has to do with the fact that it's just not working, it's not circulating air, I think that would be a valid use of COVID funds.
Mhm.
If it has to do with, I don't know, if it's leaking or if there's some other kind of issue that it's not really affecting how the air is being circulated, I don't know if we could swing it that way.
Yeah.
But it's something to look into for sure.
Just a thought. Cool.
So do you think maybe we could have the Felton Field come in when DPW, or come in when the schools come in?
I don't know how long
What's your
the
thoughts?
schools are gonna be. I don't know. How long do you think the schools are gonna be, Claire?
First go around, it shouldn't be that.
Well, usually the first time around it isn't. They come back again.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so.
We
so
never
probably with
finish
the time.
everything the first time anyways. And if they're looking for 6.5%, forget it. You know, there's nothing we can do. Jessica, have you heard how other towns are feeling about the school?
Other towns within our district?
Yeah,
We have a meeting next week to discuss,
okay.
so I'll have a better idea next week on how everybody else is feeling.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's put Felton Field on.
Okay.
We could put them on first and then have, Monty Tech is usually pretty quick. And did you say theirs had come down?
Yes, yeah, their assessment came down probably by about 20,000.
Uh-huh,
Because our enrollment went down by about 5 or 6 students,
yeah.
I want to say. So,
Yeah, so if we do that, we have Felton Field and then Monty Tech and then Quabbin.
It'll be a big night.
And Jean's, she had given us reports on the revenues, but I would prefer to discuss those when she's with us.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can I say something?
So she can, you know, explain or answer questions on them.
I think it's odd that that the receipt amounts haven't changed in 2 weeks' time. I
Nope.
mean,
That would be
I do
Alex.
accounts payable and accounts receivable. I have to update my bosses at least once a week, if not twice a week, on receipts.
Well, I believe that's part of Alex's job too,
Yeah,
so we
well,
need
that's
to
it.
have,
I
we
mean-
need to have him in here too.
Yeah, or at least, I mean, if it's, it has to be transmitted at least once a week, so when Gina
Yeah.
updates her reports bi-weekly, that those numbers are changing,
Well-
especially since yesterday was the end of excise
Yeah.
tax season, so you know that the last 2 weeks there have been months.
Yeah.
Definitely, they're not.
Right in our audit study, it says that it should be current.
I mean, the last HR seminar I went to last year, I mean, we had a lawyer who said, if you have cash in, your deposit should go in that day, and you should be
Yeah,
posting them
exactly.
the next day, 24 hours.
Right.
Because otherwise you get cash and checks sitting around, and that's when money walks out the door.
That's right.
My question really was, because there's a significant reduction in the payment in lieu of taxes, and I was wondering whether anyone knew that was related to.
That's
Yeah.
the school, those 3 letters, are they the school?
the pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes?
Yeah, what's that big one?
That is, so we just got a letter from, I think it's DCR, it's state-owned land pilot
yeah.
money.
Oh,
So we
that's-
just got a letter from them that this week, that they're gonna be releasing it to it, the money to us soon.
Oh,
So you'll
okay.
see that big 100 and something thousand.
Oh,
Okay, so that's the state.
Yes, that
Okay.
is, and then the other pilot taxes are from.
They're in, look like they're in to me. 29,000, looks like it's in.
Well, the,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
the
21, it was 186,000.
yeah, so the
Yeah.
29,000 is from the Buddhist community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So they also pay us a pilot because they don't pay property taxes, so they donate a different kind of, money to us, which is known as pilot.
Mm.
So we could probably, like, if the DCRs, so the 21 actual will go up, but our FY22 should also go up, like for the estimate. Because they have it listed now as the estimated is 20,000.
Right, yeah. You just base the estimate off of what we have today, and so that number will change
Okay.
once we
And
get
isn't
that.
the DCR number not guaranteed, but the IMS is like in agreement, that payment comes yearly. DCR can decide, the state has no money, we're very sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's kind of like
Here's your
a
letter.
good faith, it's a good faith.
Good, yep. Yeah, and a study just came out a couple of months ago, that showed what the state pays in pilot fees is actually woefully under what the communities
Good.
need for that land that they own.
Mhm.
Shocker. And,
I'm shocked.
yeah, right. We're totally surprised. But, so that study came out recently, and I know that there's been some legislative effort to make it more equitable to the value of the land that they actually have. So we'll see if that ever comes to fruition, but, just know that the state is aware that they woefully underpay us for what
Right.
they have.
Always.
And that the intention of the pilot program was to be a little bit more equitable, but here we are.
Yeah, one-way street.
So if there's nothing else, is there anything else? for you to
Jessica,
discuss?
how are we doing on a preliminary budget, spreadsheet, the bottom line number?
Yeah, let me We're looking really good.
Good.
We are. I think, we'll have a better idea once we get some final numbers from the school.
Well, yeah, that's always a hang-up,
Obviously,
yeah.
I think I estimated a 4% increase.
Okay. You put a number in that was 4% over? Yeah.
4% above what
Yep.
we paid last year,
Okay.
because I think
That's fair, I guess. Sure.
that's probably
More
gonna be
than
the
fair.
reality, if not more. So I have our bottom line number is $11.9 million, which is a 2% decrease in what came out of the general fund last year at 12.2 million.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is that due to COVID with some expenses being less, or is it an anomaly year type of thing?
I think a lot of it has to do with, one, the Monty tech assessment went down. So that definitely impacted that bottom line. Also, we have a number of staff members that left
Newer.
this past year, so
Newer.
their salary lines are
Yep.
less than what their predecessors were. So that definitely impacts it. And then just overall, there's been a couple of decreases in budget, like Chief Carbone had a decrease. A lot of the departments have been really good about staying at the level funded request that we were asked. And then also, some departments like we saw with the police department, and I believe there was one other department that they actually came in under. Actually, Ellen's budget was a huge one, where she doesn't have the big election this year, so her budget decreased significantly. So luckily, we've seen a lot of smart budgeting on behalf of our departments this year,
Yeah.
thus far.
So we'll be under 2.5 easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, and then also, I think that, I keep talking about this federal stimulus that'll come
Yeah,
in.
right.
And that will help us in the event that we did have a deficit. It could help us offset the deficit. That's gonna be one of those ways that we can spend the money. So I'm feeling confident that we're gonna be in a good place regardless.
Now, is that strictly, is that like the CARES Act strictly COVID related, or is that able to be used more broadly?
I haven't received the guidance yet, but it's looking like it's gonna be used a lot more broadly, and it's gonna be more of like a recovery act than it is like directly dealing with the problem. And it's gonna say, okay, so now we need economic development. Now we need to launch the economy back to where it needs to be, so whatever that looks like, if that means infrastructure, if that means broadband expansion, if that means covering up, deficits in a municipality, if that means, they even said like water and sewer, expansion and improvement. So, it looks like it's gonna be pretty broad, and it's also, we don't have to spend this $1.1 million this year. It's gonna be over the next couple of years that we're gonna have access to this money. So we can really do some forward-thinking planning once we get access to what the guidance is on how we can use it. I mean, I know every one of us can spend that 1.1 million in about 5 minutes, but, you know, we at least have some time to make some smart planning on how we're gonna use that money.
Did you read in a Worcester paper about this court area in Mass? They have a $32 million budget. They're gonna get $147 million with this deal. They don't know what the hell they're gonna do with the money. I mean, some of this stuff is gonna be really interesting.
Yeah.
But this is gonna be,
Yeah, I think this
really
is
different.
the, you know, since the ARRA Act that came after the 2008 crash, this is the biggest piece of legislation that we see for recovery since the 2008 crisis.
Now, is that 1.1, is that guaranteed for the town, or is that up to?
So I done the math, our accountant's done the math, and that's what we're looking at is $193 per resident.
Really?
Which equals like I think it's like 1,081,000.
That's off the current, now is that off the national census or the town census?
Must
That's a
be.
good question. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the US Census.
Yeah, it's
So
gotta
that-
be.
That could get adjusted slightly, right? I mean,
The
is that
US
population-
Census is typically higher than the town census, so
Well, because the new one's coming out though soon.
it's not gonna be based off those numbers, I don't
Okay.
think.
No.
Cool.
So
That's exciting.
all right.
I'm excited.
Good. Need a motion to adjourn?
I second.
Okay, and our next meeting is April 15th.
She
Ah,
kind of remembered
yes.
that, didn't she?
Warm to your heart. Come with an empty pocketbook.
So we're all set.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.